Have you ever felt like you're constantly trying to juggle multiple balls in the air, but one of them always falls, leaving you with a persistent sense of guilt? For many women, living with ADHD feels exactly like that, a never-ending balancing act where the feeling of failure is a constant companion. And the most surprising part? Many don't even realize that this inner chaos has a name and an explanation. You might think ADHD is something that only affects restless children, but ADHD in women brings unique, often invisible challenges that lead them to fight silent battles, striving to fit into a world that doesn't seem designed for them. When a woman doesn't understand that her daily struggles have a reason beyond lack of organization or lack of focus, life can become a cycle of guilt and anxiety. But here's what nobody tells you: understanding ADHD in women can be the first step to breaking free from that cycle. By discovering the nuances of ADHD and learning to manage it, a woman can find not only relief from self-criticism but also a new way to view her strengths and weaknesses with compassion. Curious to know how this works? The answer might just be the key that you, or someone you know, needs to live with more ease and authenticity. Differences in ADHD symptoms. When it comes to ADHD in women, it's essential to understand that, while the neurological aspects are similar to those in men, the way it manifests can be quite different. Many women don't recognize themselves in the classic ADHD symptoms we often hear about, like physical restlessness or extreme impulsivity. For them, ADHD may appear more subtly, with patterns of internal disorganization and constant forgetfulness. This means they might frequently lose things, run late, or feel overwhelmed, yet no one sees what's truly happening inside. These differences are no coincidence, as biological and societal expectations can mask many of these signs. What does that mean? Society often expects women to be more organized and meticulous, leading many to try to hide their struggles in an effort to keep up. Instead of externalizing, they internalize their frustrations, only making the problem worse. Imagine a woman with ADHD spending her day trying to keep a pristine routine while, internally, she feels like a pressure cooker about to explode. Curiously, the environment itself contributes to delayed diagnosis, as most women with ADHD spend years living with a feeling of being different without knowing why. They may blame themselves for struggling to stay focused on routine tasks, feeding a cycle of frustration and doubt. Many only discover ADHD in women later in adulthood, often after years of adapting and unanswered questions. And this is just the beginning, as there is much more behind the scenes of ADHD in women. Social expectations and internalization. For a woman with ADHD, social expectations add an extra layer of challenge. From a young age, many learn that they should be organized, detail-oriented, and responsible, but ADHD in women often contradicts these standards. Instead of following a predictable routine, they struggle not to lose track of commitments and daily tasks. So what happens? These women begin to internalize their difficulties, feeling incapable or inadequate, which impacts their self-esteem and creates a constant internal battle. Over time, this self-imposed pressure can be silent but powerful. Rather than openly expressing their frustrations, these women often hide their feelings for fear of judgment. What others see on the outside is a calm and organized facade, but inside, there's a storm of thoughts and emotions. This cycle becomes dangerous, as over the years, it contributes to an increase in psychological problems, like anxiety and even depression. Often, these conditions are mistaken for the root problem, making an accurate diagnosis even more difficult. So how can one break this cycle? Identifying ADHD in women is a fundamental step, but they also need to free themselves from unrealistic pressures for perfection. Allowing oneself to be imperfect is liberating, and seeking professional help can be a turning point. Rather than self-blame, these women can learn to adapt their environment to fit their rhythm, creating organization systems that work for them and opening a space of acceptance for their limitations. This is the true key to managing ADHD and understanding that they are not alone on this journey. Life stages impact. For women with ADHD, life stages can bring significant changes in the intensity and type of symptoms they experience. Hormonal factors, such as those involved in menstruation, pregnancy, and menopause, can heighten ADHD symptoms in women in surprising ways. During the menstrual cycle, for example, some women experience more difficulty concentrating and increased impulsivity. These hormonal ups and downs directly affect mood and the ability to handle daily demands, leaving them even more vulnerable. In pregnancy, these changes become even more pronounced. Many women with ADHD report that their symptoms feel more intense during pregnancy, especially in terms of forgetfulness and mental organization. On the other hand, some experience the opposite, with a slight improvement in symptoms. This period can be very challenging, as the focus is not only on themselves, but also on the baby, adding extra pressure. This is when having a support network becomes essential to help with daily tasks and minimize stress. Then, during menopause, the challenges shift once again. The hormonal fluctuations of this phase can intensify symptoms of inattention and anxiety, making women with ADHD even more susceptible to difficulties in their routines. It's a time when many may feel like they're losing ground in the progress they've made over the years. But understanding this connection between hormones and ADHD can be transformative. By preparing for these stages and seeking adjustments and treatment, these women can ease the symptoms and experience these phases with more ease and understanding. Challenges in diagnosis and treatment. The diagnosis of ADHD in women faces unique challenges, many rooted in medical criteria that have long been based on male symptoms. Women, with their more internalized and subtle symptoms, often go unnoticed or are misdiagnosed with other conditions, such as depression or anxiety. This mix-up is frequent because the signs of ADHD in women aren't as obvious as those in men, who typically display more evident hyperactivity or impulsivity. This gap in diagnosis means that many women go years without the proper treatment. Beyond late diagnosis, treatment itself faces obstacles. Even if they finally identify ADHD, many don't receive the right care, with treatments that truly meet their specific needs. While men generally respond well to stimulants, the same isn't guaranteed for women. In fact, for many, it requires a careful balance between medication and non-medication approaches, such as cognitive behavioral therapy and personal organization techniques. Yet it's common for women with ADHD to face the dilemma of how to integrate these practices into their daily routines. With the correct diagnosis and treatment, however, a woman with ADHD can completely transform her relationship with her struggles. For many, finding the right combination of therapies and medical approaches is a turning point, allowing them to finally align their capabilities with their ambitions. This process of discovery and acceptance takes time, but it enables them to break free from patterns of self-criticism and feel empowered to deal with ADHD positively. But there's still more beyond treatment. How does ADHD shape the way these women face long-term challenges? Long-term effects. When ADHD in women goes untreated, the long-term effects can be profound and far-reaching. Many develop coping mechanisms that, while seeming functional, are harmful. For instance, some turn to perfectionism, attempting to compensate for their attention deficits with rigid control over tasks. This pattern creates a cycle of exhaustion, as no matter how hard they try, they can't reach the standards they impose on themselves, leading to a constant sense of failure and inadequacy. Additionally, the lack of support throughout life contributes to low self-esteem and feelings of inadequacy. Rather than understanding ADHD as part of who they are, many women internalize the criticism they receive, which can lead to more serious issues, like anxiety, depression, and, in extreme cases, even self-harm or substance abuse. This negative self-perception and attempts to meet unrealistic expectations can become a crushing burden, affecting relationships and professional life as well. However, when these women find support and begin to understand ADHD in depth, the outlook changes. Recognizing that ADHD is a manageable condition and not a personal failing allows them to find healthier strategies to cope with the challenges. This involves everything from creating support networks to seeking therapies that validate their experiences and offer practical tools for daily life. Along this journey, they realize that despite the difficulties, it's possible to transform the impact of ADHD into a learning experience that strengthens their lives. And with this, the possibility emerges to rewrite their own story. Now that you've uncovered what's truly behind many of these invisible struggles, the question remains, what will you do with this knowledge? Understanding ADHD in women isn't just about knowing the reasons for the difficulties, but about finding ways to live more freely and aligned with who you truly are. Are you ready to rewrite your story and transform these challenges into growth opportunities? Imagine what your life would look like if you could apply what you've learned here, creating new ways to manage your time and energy, embracing your limitations, and seeking the support you need. If you want to continue this journey of discovery and learning, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. This way, you won't miss any content that could make a difference in your everyday life. Shall we go forward together?